Hello there and welcome to the Welsh coast, where the wildlife is just as dramatic as the scenery. On this bit of rocky coast between Aberystwyth and Borth, well, this is where my parents used to bring me rock pooling when I was a little lad. We're going to be looking back at some of my favourite Springwatch moments from the past few years. Welcome to Springwatch in Wales. The Welsh coast is full of surprises. I'm standing in the middle of an ancient forest. Some of these trees date back over 3,500 years and they're only exposed at a very low tide. It links to the old legend of Cantre'r Gwaelod, a Welsh kingdom that was drowned beneath the waves of Cardigan Bay. The Welsh coast extends for 1,680 miles. We're going to take you on a journey to see the different faces of the Welsh shoreline. Long beaches and salt marshes, high cliffs and rocky coves, packed with wildlife through every season. And where better to start than Wales' most famous wildlife island, Skåma, and in spring, a real mecca for birds. Just a mile off the coast of Pembrokeshire, Skåma Island takes on a life of its own in spring. In early April, this previously peaceful island becomes a little less so, as it transforms into one of the most important seabird breeding sites in southern Britain. Guillemots, razorbills and Manx shearwaters flock to the island in huge numbers to make the most of the rich waters and craggy cliffs. Amongst the new black and white colour scheme, a flash of orange beaks can be seen making their way to shore. Puffins spend the winter months at sea, but return here to breed. And in spring, Skåma becomes home to around 6,000 pairs. These pairs will use burrows to lay their eggs, returning to the same spot every year. After lying empty over the winter, they just need a quick spring clean. This female and male have reunited at their burrow, and what better way to re-establish your bond than a bit of beak rubbing. The colour of their beaks is a seasonal special. They lose the orange finery with blue and white streaks once the breeding season is over. But for now, they are the tender tools of affection. But predators prowl the skies. The mighty wingspans of great black-backed gulls soar overhead. Huge in comparison, with large, sharp beaks, they are the perfect puffin predator. a lucky escape. They're perfectly adapted for a life under the water. Moving with speed and deadly precision to catch a bounty of small fish and sand eels. Once they've had their fill, it's time to get back to the burrow. For those who successfully run the gauntlet, there is a reward. The chance to mate and rear their young. Females will lay one single egg in their burrow. Both male and female will take turns to incubate, until, with some luck and a fair wind, another generation of puffins will make their way out to the burrows and out to the Atlantic once more. Puffins, everybody's favourite seabird, and I've been at Skoma dozens of times and I never tire of seeing them. And the beaches there, they're important not just for birds, but for grey seals also. Why? Well, in the winter, they come ashore to molt. They shed their tattered old coat and grow a new one. And it's vitally important because that will keep them warm in the cold waters around the island. They might look lazy, but they're not. They're doing something that is absolutely vital and takes up a lot of energy. So please don't disturb them. All along the Welsh coastline, life is shaped by the rhythm of the tides. And that is especially true of the myriad of small creatures that call a rock pool like this home. It's a fascinating world, as Megan McCubbin discovered on a winter's beach.
In the biting cold of a winter morning, this place can feel like the edge of the world. Where the surf meets the rocky shore, nothing stays in one place for long. But whether washed up or passing through, every creature here has a story to tell of danger and survival. The ebbing waves leave behind tidal treasures, replenishing rock pools with a fresh supply of food. Each pool is a pop-up restaurant, with diners making the most of stirred-up nutrients. From seaweed shelters, other scavengers appear to seek out scraps. Prawns. With highly sensitive vision spanning 180 degrees and multiple pairs of antennae for touching and smelling, very little escapes their attention. Bold individuals will go in search of the best bounty, washed in by the tide. But it's a dangerous move, considering prawns are prey for so many of the rock pool's inhabitants. A sea scorpion, an ambush predator ready to pounce on unwary passers-by. This prawn has had a lucky escape. The rock pool's inhabitants aren't just at risk from predators in the water. There's danger from above too. Turnstones follow the falling tide closely. These birds have flown all the way from the Arctic to overwinter on our shores. With a unique ability to flip over rocks, they reach the hidden insects and small crustaceans, that no other predator on the shore can. The turnstones might be skillful, but when it comes to hunting, some of their neighbours are master tacticians. Crows arrive. These intelligent birds are expert at finding food. The problem crows have is that the thing they want to eat in the rock pools often comes with protection. Mollusks come with shells that resist the hardest of bills. How to get into them is a conundrum to be solved, and these clever corvids have done just that. They carefully hold winkles in their bill and swing into action. Flying high, they drop their prey on the rocks below, where the impact smashes them open. It's not always successful first time, but the crows are persistent. Eventually, the shell is breached. After all their hard work, a tasty treat awaits. But even the cleverest of birds can't hold back the tide. The waves roll in, and soon the rockpool restaurants will be covered once more.
When the tide recedes, it's not just rocks you'll see. Equally important for wildlife, especially in winter, are the intertidal mudflats. And none more so than Traeth Lafan on the Menai Straits. The area covers 25 square kilometres in all and can attract 15,000 birds coming in to feed. Intertidal mud is some of the richest habitat on Earth. And these waders have different length bills, so they probe different depths and avoid competition. The most important bird is the oyster catcher, 6,000 of them there in winter. And that's why it's a specially protected area, and when the tide comes in, it pushes them up to a high tide roost. Look at that, the flashes of orange amongst the black and white. And they're looking for safety, in this case, a small promontory where they'll stay together until the tide retreats once more. The oyster catchers demonstrate what's called peaking behaviour. They can never close down their brains completely. They have to keep one eye open. So when the left eye is open, the right hemisphere of the brain is still working. Then when it gets tired, they close that eye, open the right eye, and the left hemisphere of the brain is working. It pays to keep your eyes open even when you're half asleep. While the oyster catchers wait for the tides, just down the coast from here at Aberystwyth, it's the pier stretching out to the sea that provides a seaside safe haven for very different birds. It's Wales' most famous starling roost, as I found out recently.
See, this is the perfect hangout here for a flock of starlings underneath the pier. There are girders, there are stanchions, there are lots of room for the birds, and they're out of the way of the rain, of the wind, and also predators. Peregrine falcons and sparrowhawks can't get at them once they're in there. Now, there are no birds here at the moment. Where are they? Well, they're out in the surrounding fields feeding. But leave it an hour or so, and the sky should be full of thousands of them. These are the pioneers just starting to come in now. Hopefully the floodgates will open. Here they come, they're starting to come in their hundreds now, and they'll come back in these little groups and join up to form these much bigger groups. I've got my head in the sky at the moment. Oh, here we are. Yeah, big flock starting to come in now. Look at this. That's incredible, because once the first few starlings start to drop down and go into the roost, all the others follow. And then all of a sudden, it's raining starlings all around me. Look at this. And it's difficult to believe that, what, 15, 20,000 starlings can all fit under the pier, but fit they do. And it's the dominant ones, they have the best positions under there, and the subordinate starlings are all around the outside. You can hear the noise under the pier. You imagine sleeping there for the night. But once they've settled down, give it maybe half an hour, three-quarters of an hour or more, it all goes very quiet, all of a sudden.
As the sun sets, the starlings settle onto their perches. We were lucky enough to put our cameras up under the pier so we could follow the action after sunset and into the night. As they roost, no one wants to be on the outside, so they'll try and move in. But it's packed there, so once one moves, another gets kicked off, and there's a mini Mexican wave of disruption. But we were surprised to see a barn owl visiting.
It settled itself, had a bit of a look around, made sure it was safe. It then dropped down under the pier and landed on one poor victim in there. Now, once it's got hold of that starling, it's the end for it. It started to pluck it just a little bit in there, but it's surrounded by starling feces. So he picks up the starling in its beak and heads straight down the barrel of the camera. It then landed on the old pipes there. Now, bear in mind, I think this is a male because it's got quite a clean chest. And that male will weigh roughly about 330 grams. The starling itself is 80 grams, so that's quite a meal for it. It'll devour most of it, the beak, the brain, the meat. They always have trouble with wings, barn owls. I've been to barn owl roosts where they're feeding on starlings, and often you find scattered wings there. But this one perseveres. And of course, it's important to take the feathers along with the bones and the beaks, as that's roughage for when they want to bring up a pellet later on. And what it does then is, obviously it's a big meal, so it's caching what's left of that starling underneath the old pipe there. It's no guarantee that if it comes back that it'll be able to catch another starling, so it'll remember that it's cached that food away and it can come up and eat that at a later date. It then cleans its beak, probably thinks, well, I'm in a safe, dry place under the roof here, so there's no point going off into the rain. Isn't that fantastic? I remember that so well. What a spectacle that is. Now, the wide sandy beaches of Mid Wales are often backed by sand dunes like this one here. And this is a constantly shifting, very fragile habitat that supports its own specialist species, as Gillian found out when she went up to the Llyn Peninsula.
This is why we're here. It's this formation, which is actually a very scarce formation. It's soft cliff, it's crumbly, it's fragile, but the structure is stabilized by pioneering grasses and scrub. And if you look at those root systems there, knitting it all together, they allow a succession of colonizing species to take hold. And species like bird's foot trefoil, providing nectar for all sorts of flying insects at this time of year. Now, there's one species that is found nowhere else in the country except for 2 sites on the Llŷn Peninsula, and that's the large mason bee. Now, large mason bees use this structure to excavate their nests. And you can see it's a really fine sandy structure, individual sand grains there caught on the hairs. Large mason bees, they're beautiful little things. Now, there is another species that flies from far afield, migrates from Sahel. This is the sand martin, Europe's smallest hirundine, the group that include the swallows and the house martins. Sand martins will come to these coastal areas, these soft cliffs. They're the first to arrive in spring of all the hirundines, and they'll return to these existing nest holes. If they're collapsed or eroded, they'll excavate new ones. Why are they here? Well, they're safe from predators. They can fly in and out of those nest holes, and you can see they're brilliant flyers, very maneuverable. They're able to hover around the nest hole entrance. The adults were very busy coming in and out of the nest, and we were pretty sure they're well into their breeding season now. We saw them returning with food rather than nesting material. But there's another clue that they have chicks in there, and this is it, leaving with a fecal sac. Now, hungry chicks make a lot of poo, and those fecal sacs coming out again and again, the adults making sure those nests are nice and clean and parasite-free. They're brilliant, brilliant little birds.
What's amazing about the Welsh coastline are the diverse opportunities it offers. These rocky cliffs are home to a bird we call a Vran Goesgoch, the red-legged crow, otherwise known as the chough. It's a member of the crow family, has a red bill, red legs, and a very distinctive chew, chew call. They nest tucked away in the crevices in the cliff face, but they feed up here, probing for all kinds of invertebrates. These cliff tops are generally grazed by sheep or by rabbits, but unique to Wales, on the Great Orme above the town of Llandudno, the job is done, and done well, by feral cashmere goats. These animals are magnificent at any time of year, but they're at their very best in the autumn, as Chris Packham found out.
Along the coast of North Wales, the cliffs of Pen y Gogarth tower above the town of Llandudno. Perhaps better known as the Great Orme, this is where monarchs of the mountains roam. Navigating the steep drops of their kingdom with sure-footed certainty. Cashmere goats were originally brought to the UK for their wool, but this herd was kept for its exotic value before being allowed to run free more than 100 years ago. And every year, the cliffs become their battleground. Mature males are easy to spot, and their horns tell a story. Each segment signifies a year of growth. Every gnarl and scar is a battle tale to tell of years gone by. Crowns now become weapons. The mountain kings lock horns to establish dominance. Size is everything when it comes to the rutting season. And it's the older, more powerful, well-equipped billies who stand the best chance of success. Considering the nannies and billies spend most of the year apart, the males are anything but shy. What better way to test if the nannies are in season They even dip their muzzles into females' urine. Inhaling with lips curled and head tilted back, the billy draws pheromones over the roof of his mouth, where a specialised organ waits. Nannies are only in season for 2 days, so timing is critical. If the males detect a female is ovulating, the clash of the kings begins. This female scent has caught the attention of a number of suitors, all jousting for a chance to mate. There's no fair fighting in this court when competing for a queen. Our female finds sanctuary in a crevice. The victorious male now standing guard. This display of leg kicking is a sign of courtship, and he is now her devoted defender. Dominant males will protect a female for days. This doesn't deter this young, gutsy goat from trying his luck. With the usurpers seen off, the female emerges. He's earned his right to mate with his new queen. For today, the battleground falls silent. But the autumnal ritual, the clashing of crowns on the cliffside of Penagogoth, will continue for these mountain kings for years to come.
They're incredible animals, from the feral goats in the north to the puffins on Scomer Island in the south. I've been able to show you just a few of the stunning coastal landscapes and the magnificent wildlife that Wales has to offer. I hope you've enjoyed the journey. Till next time, hwyl fawr, goodbye.